Little buddy. This is my little buddy Jake. So this is about the 5th time that I've tried to do this video, and by George, I'm gonna get through it this time. No camera crapping out, no recording the entire thing and then realizing that I have no sound on. So as a lot of you may know, I've been working on a big print here for a while, and I thought it would be nice to get Octopi set up on my Raspberry Pi so that I could use that to control the printer, check in on it, etc. Now, before we start this, a few disclaimers. Number one, I've never done anything with Octopi before. I didn't even know it existed until a little while back, so, we'll stumble through this together. Number two, you should never leave your 3D print alone while it's printing. You should always have somebody at least in the house to check on it. Having said that, I do realize that stuff happens, and, sometimes you might need to step out, and prints can take a really long time. I know on the print that I'm working on, it's got 22 separate pieces, and each piece takes between 1 and 4 days to print. I don't endorse you leaving your printer unarmed. I don't endorse you leaving your printer with no one to keep an eye on it. If you don't look after your printer and something happens to it, that's on you. I take no responsibility. This is merely to show you how I'm going to set up OctoPrint for mine. I'm not in any way instructing you or endorsing you to do this yourself and then not keep an eye on your printer. I will likely have somebody watching this printer anytime that it is printing, and the main reason why I'm setting up Octopi for myself is for time lapses, which I hope to be able to add to my video, which will be nice, and to do and to check on it if I'm in the other room and I'm doing something else. I can just SSH into the Pi, and I can check on it from the other room. You should never leave your 3D printer alone. If you don't believe me on the bad things can happen, just Google it. I'm sure you can find some really bad cases. Now, let's get started, shall we? First thing you're going to want to do, grab your dog. Say hi. Here's my little buddy. He's my little buddy. You want to type it in? That's not how you do it. Okay, you can go now. He didn't want to be computer tech dog. And for those of you wondering, Plinky and the Beagle are in the other room. She took Snuffleupagus and left me. First thing we're gonna do is go to the Octopi. I think it's .org. So apparently it's just Octopi. Type in Octopi, click it, wait for it to come up. This says, Guy Sheffer maintains Octopi and a Raspbian and thus Debian-based SD card image for the Raspberry Pi, and it has everything you need to run it. OctoPrint Plus and its dependencies. MJPG Streamer for live viewing prints and time-lapse video creation. That one's really nice, and I may use it for the streaming, but I don't think I'll be using it for time-lapse. I want to say I'm going to be using Octolapse for time-lapse because I've heard that's really good. It also comes with Cura Engine 1504 for slicing directly on your Raspberry Pi, which is really nice. I can just SSH into the Pi and then, slice my stuff there and then set it to print. Now we download Octopi 0.16.0. We let it do its thing. I suspect that I already have... While that's downloading, I'll go ahead and read the setup. First, you unzip the image and install the contained image file to the SD card using Etcher, which I think I have the latest version. I do? It's not the latest version, but I have Etcher, so it's fine. Do not format, even though it's going to tell you to do so. Just use Etcher to do it. Okay. I can do that. Configure your Wi-Fi connection by editing the octopi-wpa-supplicant.txt on the root of the flashed card, and when using it like a thumb drive, and this just tells you use Notepad++ instead of TextEdit, or WordPad, which is my go-to. Let's see, Notepad, where'd you go? There it is. I do have Notepad++, so that's good. This changed Octopi version 0.15.0. Earlier versions you had to edit this, now you don't. boot the Pi from the SD card, log into your Pi via SSH. It's located at octopi.local, or the IP address assigned by your router. Default username is Pi, password is Raspberry. Run sudo rasb config. Change the password via change user password. You can change your time zone. You can change your time zone or your localization or your host name. That's optional though. You can navigate the menus using the arrow keys and enters. To switch to selecting buttons, use the tab. You don't need to expand file system. That does that automatically. Access Octopi through this or this. HTTPS is available too, with self-signed certificate. Man, they thought of everything. Oh, they even included a handy-dandy YouTube video to show how to do this. You know, I probably should have watched that instead of doing this myself. Oh well. Okay, so now I'm going to open Etcher, and I'm gonna take my handy-dandy flash drive, complete with SD card. Skip. I'll probably end up doing that later. This goes in the computer. I've already named it Octopi. Select image, Octopi stretch. Wait, did it say I had to unzip it first? Unzip and install file on SD card using Etcher. So we're going to select the image, Octopi stretch light, open, let's see, FG. Let me make sure that's the correct one, which it is. Continue, flash. Click yes. And now we let it do its thing. Okay, so just like it said it would, it's asking me to format. No. Yada yada yada. Cancel. Flash complete. Okay. Configure your Wi-Fi connection by editing the Octopi on the root of the flash card when using it like a thumb drive. I may have to unplug it and then plug it back in for it to get it to recognize it again. I did. Octopi WPA supplicant. Okay, so let's edit this in Notepad++. Alright. Just comment the line prefix with a single hash sign of the configuration that matches your Wi-Fi setup and fill in the SSID passphrase. Or just uncomment the lines prefixed with a single hash mark. Use of proper text. Ooh, shade on WordPad. Okay, so what I'm going to need to do is put my SSID here, put the password here. I'll need to take these three hashes out and this one in front of network. I'm not going to share my user ID or password, so I'll be back after this is done. After I do this, I will just save it, and then I should be able to take my Raspberry Pi, or I should be able to take my SD card out of my computer at that point. Okay, now that my network settings are configured properly, hopefully, the next step is going to be for me to boot the Pi from the card. MicroSD is now in the Raspberry Pi, and we need to find a USB to boot it from. The next step is going to be to boot the Pi, which I will just do by plugging it in. Now let's let it do its thing and boot up. Then we'll SSH into the Pi and go from there. Now let's use PuTTY to SSH into the Pi. Let's see, it's located at octopi.local. Hostname or IP address, octopi.local. Session connection type SSH. Open. Let's see if that worked. Unable to host does not exist. So it looks like I might have screwed up on my network settings, so now I have to go back in and check that. Or the SD card goes back in the Pi. Power on. I wanted to open it as menu. Okay. Ping. Octopi.local. Could not find... Okay, so let's try it without the space then. Let's see if the setup has any, or if the guide has anything to do with it. Yeah. W network equals SSID, which is that, PSK, octopi.local, or the IP address assigned by your router. I thought maybe the issue was that maybe something went wrong with the initial install, so I formatted the drive and reflashed it. So now let's... Cool, it doesn't even see that there's a thing in there. Now let's see if we can go back and edit that text file. I meant to do that in Notepad++. Edit with Notepad++. Exit out. Exit out. Eject mass storage. Now back in the Raspberry Pi. Boot the Raspberry Pi by plugging it in. I'll give it a moment or two to catch up, and then I'll try to see if I can ping it. Ping octopi local dot local. Come on. Phooey. Let's try putty. Octopi.local. Looks like I'm gonna have to try this tomorrow. I'll pick up where I left off and see if I can figure out where. Okay, so I actually ended up staying up a little bit more. I'm like 4 hours past my bedtime at this point, but it may be worth it. I think I might have finally gotten it to be able to connect via SSH. So what I had to end up doing, I had to go into Notepad++ and adjust something else, where it was saying that my country was Great Britain. I needed to comment that out and change that to the country being the United States, and then I had to wait for it to fully boot up, and I had to go in and find my Raspberry Pi's IP address and enable SSH so that I could connect to it with PuTTY. It was originally disabled. Login as Pi. Password Raspberry. Oh, far out. I think that did it. Let's see. Change password via change user password. Linux Pi, Linux programs included, Debian SSH enabled. Please log in as Pi user and type PASSWD to set a new password. Alright, so I'm going to set a new password. Current Unix. New one. Retype it. Cool, it was updated. Change host name. Your Octopi instance will no longer be reachable under Octopi local, but rather host name you choose prefixed with local. Let's see. Yeah, workshop. Well, I'm good with it being octopi.local. You do not need to expand the file system. Access OctoPrint through http //octopi.local or your Pi's address. It's available to with self-signed certificate. Hello, thank you for installing OctoPrint. This wizard will guide you through the final steps in getting your OctoPrint instance all set up and ready to go. We'll get you to printing in no time. Next, access control. Please read the following. It is very important to your printer's health. Ships with access control enabled. Do anything to your printer first-time user. Prevent strangers, possibly malicious intent, to gain access to your printer via a trusted network and using it in such a way that would damage your printer or worse, catch your house on fire. Haven't figured control yet? Set up a username and password. The initial administrator will have full access to both the printer and Octopi settings. Okay, so Blaze Glory, password. Same password. Keep access control enabled. Save that. Next. Yeah, it's fine, whatever. I don't care. If the connectivity check is enabled, OctoPrint will regularly check if it's connected to the internet. It's useful to prevent resource-intensive operations, such as checking for updates. If it's already clear, they won't succeed anyhow. If it's disabled, it will always assume you have a working connection to the internet. Should not actually be the case. Server startup update checks and might take longer. Yeah, sure, why not? That's enabled. Configure plugin blacklist processing. Protect against known server issues in certain versions of party and third-party plugins. Supports the use of a centralized plugin version blacklist to automatically disable such plugin versions before they can interfere with normal operations, allowing you to install or update them to a newer version. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I can save that later anyway, so, or I can change it. You haven't imported a slicing profile with Curia Engine yet. If you plan on slicing from within OctoPrint, you should do this now. Otherwise, just skip this step. Yeah, let's see if I even have a profile in Curia, which I'm not sure that I do. Once again, pretty sure I can set that up later at my leisure. So cancel, abort. Next. Name TiVo Tornado. Generic riprap printer. Let's see, this one's 300 by 300 by 400, I suspect. Origin lower left, rectangular. Maximum speed rate, that's probably fine. 0.4 number, yes. Finish. Never leave your printer running completely unattended. Yeah, that hence the warning that I gave at the beginning of the video. Let's let it finish. Hey, there's a thing and some stuff and some things. Update the following components and restart the server. OctoPrint 1.3.11. Proceed. Updating. We'll let it do its thing. And once that's good, I mean, that should pretty well be it for this this part of the video. I'm not certain if I'm going to do a video on Octolapse or anything like that, but from here it should pretty much just be plug it in, level the bed, let it print. Also, the 3D print file, or the STL file that I have of that thing that I'm working on is already on the card, which is in the printer. So I actually shouldn't, or I'm not going to be running that or slicing that in OctoPrint. This was mostly just a proof of concept, and also you know, if I happen to be in the other room, or if I happen to step out for a moment, or I'm at work and I want to check on my print and Plinky's here to watch it, then I'll be able to remote access. Also, it should be pretty good for doing time-lapse videos, which I'm super excited about. Oh yeah, since I'm SSH'd into it, I no longer need this keyboard attached to it. I don't know if I mentioned it a moment ago, but in order to set up the SSH, I had to hook the Pi up to a TV, and then I had to go into Raspi config and enable SSH. Okay, while I'm still waiting on that to do its thing, since this video's rambled on long enough, and I'm gonna do a little bit of research before I do anything else in OctoPrint, so that I can know what in the world that I'm doing and not stumble through it so much with you guys. I'm gonna leave this one here. If you would like to see me try or do anything else, let me know in the comments, or if you just want to chat, have any questions, concerns, comments, just let me know. I hopefully have a lot of exciting videos lined up after this, and I'm very excited to share them. This one in particular was a pain in the butt. Like I said, I think I tried something like 5 times before I actually got the darn thing out. But it's out there now, and it may not be the best quality, but it's the best I could do for the moment, and the videos will only keep getting better. Thank you all so much for watching, and remember, when the gears start turning, anything is possible. You know your buddy. Oh, balls. Jake says, bye!